What's up, y'all? Welcome to another video by the Football Physio where we tackle everything in the world of soccer, fitness, and rehab. If you're new here, my name is Andy. I'm a physical therapist based just outside of New York City, and I specialize in soccer injuries. Today's video is all about reducing the amount of re-injuries you may have as a soccer player. Now, what do we mean by that? Well, if you are a soccer player who has had several hamstring injuries in the past, or has sprained your ankle several times, or has sprained the same groin several times, then this video is definitely for you. What most people don't know is that a lot of these injuries are actually somewhat preventable, especially if they're more muscular-based injuries. So how do we actually reduce your risk of these injuries from repeating over again and again and again? Well, step number one is to know what injuries you've had in the past. And the reasoning for this is quite clear. There's a lot of research that happens in the world of soccer injuries and rehab. And what's been shown time and time again is that the best predictor of future injury is actually the injuries you've had in the past. I'll give you an example. If you're a player who has torn their ACL once on one knee and twice on the other knee, your biggest concern moving forward should be, you guessed it, an ACL tear. Or even if you look at players in the professional ranks, take a player like Ousmane Dembele, for example, his injury that he should be worried about most in the future is, you guessed it, hamstring injury. Why? Because he's pulled his hamstring 7 times in the past few years. Now, the key take home for you as a soccer player is to always have a written list of the injuries you've had in the past. I suggest saving this on your phone as a note, and every time you pick up a knock, just go ahead and put that in your phone, save it in there, and you'll be able to have a long running list as you go throughout your career. And of course, most of the things you write down won't be serious injuries. Maybe you just have a little ankle knock that takes a day or two to recover. But if you start to write everything down, you might start to see trends. And if you see a trend, you have the ability to then act on it. Furthermore, if you go visit a doctor or a physio, you're able to give that list directly to them. And that is a very, very helpful tool on our side to help make a good plan for you. Now, another tip to reduce your risk of re-injuries is to know what injury you currently have if you're currently injured. And this may seem like an obvious one, but it actually gets a lot more detailed than that. For example, let's say you have pain in the back of your leg and you think, maybe I have a little minor hamstring injury, and over the next few weeks it gets better and better and eventually you go back. Well, that pain in the back of your leg might not necessarily be a hamstring injury, and furthermore, if it is, there's a lot more detail that you're going to need to get from that. We're going to want to know on the medical side, is it actually a hamstring injury? And if the injury is in the hamstring, is it in the big beefy part of the muscle that's nice, bright, and red? Or is it those parts on the bottom and the top of the hamstring that is more actually like a tendon? Because those are treated very differently. Furthermore, there's 3 muscles of the hamstring, and it depends which muscle it is as well, because certain muscles take longer to heal in the hamstring than others. Furthermore, pain in the back of your leg may not even be a hamstring issue. It could be a nerve-related issue because that nerve runs right along the hamstring as well. And sometimes if the nerve is a little irritated, you actually think it's your hamstring when the problem is actually lying elsewhere. Point being, if you have an injury, it is vitally important to get a very accurate diagnosis, because that's what's going to allow you to have a good rehab plan and afterwards have a good prehab or activation routine, which rolls us straight into tip number 3. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of the word activation, but it's very common in the soccer landscape, but I think it's very, very important to define it. The way I use it with my players is that activation is less of a switch you turn on and off to activate certain muscles, but more of a short 5 to 10 minute period where you can focus on maintaining or improving the strength of certain muscles or ligaments or joints in the body before you go out onto the field. And the reason this is so important and so effective is if you spend 5 to 10 minutes working on your body before you go out to the pitch and you train 4 times a week, well, guess what? That's 20 to 40 minutes every week you're dedicated to a certain part of your body. You add that over an entire season and you're spending hours maintaining the certain strength of muscles, which may be more prone to injury on you. And furthermore, you can actually use this activation window as a method to reduce your future injuries as well. And if you're lucky enough to not have a extensive injury history where you have to stay on top of certain body parts, you can use this window to focus on body parts that are specific to the session you're about to take on as a player. For example, if you know that Wednesdays are your heavy sprinting days and you know that your hamstrings always feel a little bit fatigued after a sprinting session, you can use that window to do extra hamstring stretches as well as exercises so that over time your hamstrings become more resilient and you are less susceptible to injury. That way, not only are you improving the injury risk of injuries you've had in the past, but you're taking in what you're using in the present and preventing injuries moving forward into the future. Now, this last tip is super important. If you want to reduce your risk of future injury, you have to be in constant communication with your coaching staff when you're returning from an injury. If you look at the re-injury rates of certain injuries in the game of soccer, you'd be surprised, or maybe not so surprised, about how high they can be. We're talking 20, 30, 40% in the case of some injuries. And what studies have shown time and time and time again is if you look at, instead of the individual, but the team as a whole, and you look at strategies to reduce injury risk, one of the best ways to have that is great communication between your medical team and your coaching staff. It is so vital. And if you're a player out there who isn't a part of a professional club, guess what? You are your own advocate and you are a part of your own medical team. And are you a doctor? No. Are you a physio? Likely not. But you have the tools and the resources to connect the people in your network together to help make the best decisions for you. For example, a great starting point for this is if you're returning from an injury that's rather serious, I highly suggest setting up a group chat with yourself, your physio, and your coach in order for everybody to communicate and be on the same page. Trust me, this will help out so much more than you would think. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for all future updates in the world of soccer, fitness, and rehab. Peace and love. I'll see y'all next time.